Okay, so what follows is a presentation on subject choice for Leaving Certificate. The goal is to try and give as much information or relevant information in as short a period of time as possible. So I always start by just reminding those, especially those going directly into fifth year, that motivation is a better indicator of academic success than IQ. So obviously there's a direct correlation between attendance and exam performance, but there's also a connection between students who are motivated and disciplined and focused from day one and the results they'll actually achieve in the Leaving Certificate. So it's important that they start with day one actually being sort of focused on the exams and the program that they're about to enter into. So there's 5 websites that are worth looking at. Now, as a PDF version on the website, you can click into these and they're live. They'll bring you directly to the websites named there. So the first one is the NCCA website. It's curriculumonline.ie. So the NCCA is National Council for Curriculum and Assessment. So if you want to know specifically or exactly what is entailed in each individual course in the Leaving Cert, so what do I do in construction studies, what's involved in physics and so forth and so on, then the links are on that website. I'll have a link to them later. I'll show in a moment. Careers Portal is actually quite handy for students in the sense that there is a lot of additional subject choice information up there. But I think what the students most enjoy is or find most benefit in is the range of videos that are on offer. So there's close enough to about 700 videos up there. So if you want to find out, for example, what a guidance counsellor does, you find guidance counsellor, click on. It's about a 5-minute video. And they'll give you a sort of rough overview of how they actually got into their profession or career or the job they're doing at the moment. But what's probably most useful is one of the questions that each of the participants is asked is, what subjects did you choose for the Leaving Cert? So that's a handy way to get a lot of information very quickly, and then some specific subject information. So that's a useful website. The CEO is the College Application Office. That's down Eckington Square down in Galway. That's essentially you can get the list of courses that 6th years can apply for through the CEO system. So that's handy, but probably not the most interesting sites straight off. So what we have then is Qualifax. So Qualifax is the national database of courses. So all the courses that are available to study in Ireland, they're somewhere in Qualifax. So whether it's a standard CEO course, or a part-time course, PLC course, distance learning course, course for mature entry, overseas entry, postgrad entry, anything in there is going to be on Qualifax. So Qualifax is the database that you use in terms of researching subject requirements. So for example, if you're interested in mechanical engineering, you can go to the Qualifax website, put in mechanical engineering, a sample of those courses. Well, all those courses will appear. Click on a sample of them. And usually about a third of the way down is something around sort of subject requirements, and you can click on that and it'll show you specifically what subject requirements might be required for that particular course or for those particular sets of courses. So Qualifax is a useful database. And then the final one is the school website, so it's guidanceoffice.info. If you go into the school website, the St.Ciarán's community school website, right hand side down a bit is the link to the guidance office page. So when that opens, third one across the top is subject choice. So that's the page that you probably should be most interested in at the moment. Teaching council requirements specific to students who might be interested in doing secondary school teaching, maybe have a read of that. For our present students, that would be the 2023 plus version. I know they've already received some information on LCVP, but there's another short LCVP PowerPoint up there if people want to have a look at it. So copy this video is up there, copy the presentation given in class is up there. A link to what I mentioned earlier, that National Council and Curriculum Assessment website, curriculumonline.ie, for all the Leaving Cert subjects is there as well. More information on Project Maths, NUI matriculation. I've put in a sort of a narrow your choices worksheet there as well for those who might have difficulty deciding between sort of 2 subjects. Just a little worksheet might help. Point system is there, and then I've also included a cheat sheet. Now it's only about 3 pages, but it's for those who sort of say, well, I want to do law, what would you recommend? I want to do teaching, what would you recommend? So you can use that as a good sort of starting off point for thinking about senior cycle subject choice. There's also additional information there about the Leaving Certificate applied for anybody who might be interested. Okay, so Every qualification in Ireland is on the National Framework of Qualifications, falls between a 1 and a 10. Junior certificate is essentially level 3. So post-leaving junior certificate, the traditional leaving cert is the first choice for most students, and that's basically your 3 compulsory subjects and then your 4 choices. So most students do a minimum of 7 choices on the traditional leaving cert. For those who haven't already done transition year is an option. So it's essentially a break between junior and leaving certificate. It can be an interesting, informative course. It gives students time to maybe actually sort themselves out and in terms of improving maybe core academic skills or thinking about specifically what they might want to do post-leaving cert. And then you've also got another program called the Leaving Certificate Vocational Program. Now, in a nutshell, that's just an additional subject. So as I said, for a traditional Leaving Cert, 3 core subjects, usually English, Irish, Maths, your 4 options, and then you can take LCVP on top of that. So essentially, it's a sort of probably being implied here, but a watered down business course. So if you have business, it sort of feeds nicely into that. So it's just a little bit extra. If you don't have a business subject, then LCVP is a way of accessing some business sort of information, I suppose, or accessing a business program without actually taking on one of the business subjects. It is marked differently. So essentially LCVP is just a traditional Leaving Cert with that extra program. So if it interests you, you can take it. If not, there's no pressure. Okay, and then the final option is obviously Leaving Certificate Applied. So as I said, every qualification is between a 1 and a 10. Junior Cert's level 3, traditional Leaving Cert's essentially level 5. Leaving Certificate Applied is essentially level 4. So Leaving Certificate Applied is not a equivalent Leaving Cert, an alternative Leaving Cert. There's a consequence as a result of that. So with the traditional Leaving Cert, you're eligible to apply for all higher education institutes. So that's all your private colleges, traditional colleges, technical universities, one of the 2 sort of institutes of technology left, and so forth and so on. Peak Tech Level 5 QQI are basically PLC courses. So your Catlins and Dunboynes of this world. So basically you do your Leaving Certificate either with or sort of without transition year, and then you're eligible to apply to the CEO for all those courses. Leaving Certificate Applied is a little bit of a longer route. It's normally for students who might want to directly access an apprenticeship straight into employment or looking at a PLC, but you can use the PLC to gain a place in college afterwards. So it's a sort of an extended route. So there's the point system. I'm sure most people are familiar with it. The percentage marks are in the center, so everything from 0 to 100. So for example, 90 to 100% on an honours paper. Honours are indicated by the H's, ordinary is indicated by the O's. So honours paper is a H1. So H1 is worth, on the CEO system, 100 points. H2 is worth 88 points, 77 for the H3, and so forth and so on. Okay, so the opposite then on the side of the page is for the ordinary level. So your O1 is basically 56 points, your O2 is 46, and then all the way down. You'll notice that all the way down to a H7 or 30% or above, you actually are awarded points on the honours scale. So essentially it means that a 30% on honours paper is the equivalent of a pass, old style pass. If you're looking at ordinary level, then points are only achieved after 40%. So we still sort of indicate that 40% or above on an ordinary level paper would be a pass. There's the additional 25 points for the honours maths. So only for the honours maths above the 40%. So you can get 37 points for the H7. But if you want to gain the additional 25 points, it has to be a H6 or above. So anywhere between the H6 and the H1, you'll get, if you score there, you'll receive an additional 25 points. Now LCVP, bottom right hand corner there, you can see has a different point scale. So basically A, B, and C. So distinction, merit, and pass. There's no fail, it's a non-successful. So your distinction 66, merit 46, pass 28. It is acceptable for points in institutes of technology, the 2 that are remaining. As I said, the technical universities and the traditional universities, they will award points for it, but they won't necessarily. For example, the NUI colleges and TUD, Technical University of Dublin, from next year, will actually not recognise LCVP as a leaving certificate subject, which means that if they say you must have 6 subjects, then LCVP cannot be one of those 6 subjects. Now, as I said, for most students, it's going to be their 8th subject, so it normally doesn't come into play in that way. But there is an issue. So everybody will give you the points for it, but not every college will actually accept it as a subject for matriculation or a subject that's required to get into the college. So always worth double checking. Foundation level maths, there's only, for the traditional universities will not award points for the foundation level maths. The technical universities will, and only for the F1 and F2. So 90% or above, you get the F1, that's worth 20 points. Your 80 to 89% gives you the F2, which is worth 12 points. So basically, like everything, just check, double check, triple check. So ensure that it's actually foundational maths is recognized for the course you're going into, and if it is a technical university, just double check that the points will be awarded, but only for the F1 and F2. So with the applied maths, always basically double check. So here's a sample calculation of how the points work in the real world. You have the student doing the 3 core subjects, Irish, English, and maths, and then they have their 4 choices: physics, biology, design, communication, graphics, and then German. So they took them at different levels. The Gaeilge was done at honours level, the English was done at ordinary level, and so forth. You'll notice with the maths, they achieved the H3, which is the 77, but remember, anything above the 40%, you get the additional 25 points. So that H3 is actually worth 102 points to you. Now, there's only one rule about points calculation: best 6 subjects. So they will look at there's a sample leaving certificate. They look at your highest 6 scores. DCG is your lowest score, O2 ordinary level, so it's not going to be counted. They add your top 6 for points, and you get your 458 points. Now, 458 points is an exceptional leaving cert. That's very, very good. Average in this school normally around 300, 315. Now, that's 2019 and pre, because we have had massive grade inflation, obviously, since 2019. So, just to remind people that obviously the goal of the department, or the said goal of the department, is to bring us back to sort of the 2019 standard. So there has been a little bit of a chipping away in terms of the higher points scores for students. Okay, so there's a different point system for those looking at going to the north of Ireland. So we have 9 6-years this year have applied for either Queen's, 1 for the for England, and then the rest for University of Ulster. You will notice that say, for example, the Northern Ireland College might only look for, say, in some cases, 4 honour subjects, but might be looking more towards the 4 H3s or 4 H2s. So they do favour the honour subjects and the higher grade in the honour subjects for accumulating the points. Now, they will check or count all your subjects for points. That's not an issue. But in most cases, they're looking for, as I said, like 4 H3s or 5 H4s or a couple of H2s, whatever, some combination of that. So it usually more favours the students who are doing more higher level subjects. However, they're usually lower points. So for, for example, psychology might be 4 H2s, which is 120 points, which is quite high on the tariff system. But to us, that's 400 points, possibly 425 if you had honours maths. But you're looking at equivalent courses here in the sort of the mid 500s. So there can be huge points differences between UCAS and the CEO. So just another thing to bear in mind if you want to look at alternative choices to actually going through the CEO. Okay, so as I said, again, your points calculation is based on your best 6 subjects. If a subject is required for a college course, so for example, use the example later of Arts Maynooth, which means you must pass a modern European language if you want to do the specific arts program in Maynooth, and you're stuck with, say, French or German, and that happens to be your weakest subject, so it's your lowest in terms of points. When the college is saying, did you pass French or German? You say, yes, I passed it, that's fine. So they're happy enough. Then the CEO is calculating your points. They will look at your best 6. If that French or German was your number 7 and it was your lowest points, it's not counted for points. So matriculation or entry requirements for courses is a separate process to points. Points is your best 6, and matriculation is looking at your entire leaving cert as given. Okay, it's a single sitting, the leaving cert. So if you got sat the Leaving Cert this year and achieved 300 points, sat the Leaving Cert next year and achieved, you dropped it to 290, you'd count it as having a 300 points Leaving Cert. It's always the higher of whichever Leaving Cert you actually sat, but it's always based on a single sitting in the Leaving Cert. As we talked about foundation level maths, it may be acceptable for the course you're going into, even at university level. But the college you're applying for may or may not sort of award you points. And again, remember, only for the F1 or F2. So always double check with the foundation level maths. Foundation level Irish, not accepted by any college, not given points by anybody. So there's foundation level Irish is off the table in terms of college entry for matriculation or for points. If you are looking at medicine, matriculation, where it's presenting the right subjects that are required for the medical course, and the points has to be done in the 1 year. So in years gone by, you could say achieve your points this year and then maybe sit the honours chemistry the following year because you failed to get the chemistry grade. You can't do that anymore. So matriculation must be completed in all within 1 year. Okay, so we're going to use Arts Maynooth, as I said, as an example, because Maynooth University geographically is the closest, and in terms of popularity, it is the most popular course for students from our school. So the way we describe it is getting into, say, Arts Maynooth, you're heading through sort of 3 doors to get there. Another reason for picking Arts Maynooth, as I said, it is the single most popular course in the CEO system. Last year, I think it was in excess of about 8,000 students actually applied for it. So it's a good one to start with. So number one is basically general requirements and what is required of the college in general. Are there any specific course requirements for getting into that particular arts degree? And then the last door is obviously points. So you might have the general requirements for the college and the course. You might have any specific requirements that are required of that. That doesn't necessarily guarantee you entry because you always have competition. There's more people applying than there are places available. And the way we sort that out is with the point system. So if you're looking at Arts Maynooth, you must present 6 subjects in your Leaving Cert. So, worst case scenario, you did 7 subjects, all honours level, failed 2, then that's put you you're down to 5 subjects, so that puts Maynooth off the table. 2 H5s, so the old C's might be required, and then you must pass English at higher ordinary level, Irish at higher ordinary level, not foundation level, and then a third language or a modern European language at ordinary or higher level. So you've got all that, that's fine. No specific course requirements for the arts. So the important one then is the points, how to allocate points. So as we said, points are based on your best 6 subjects. So what they do is, say they had the 8,000 students applying, they make sure that you matriculate, you got your 6 subjects, your 2 H5s, you passed your English, your Irish, your third language, that's fine. Notice that there was no maths requirement for Arts Maynooth, so maths is an irrelevance for that one. So they line you up they calculate your points based on your best 6. They line you up from the top down to the bottom. In this case, they had 1,300 places or thereabouts for Arts Maynooth. So they start at number 1, they go to number 1,300. Number 1,300 last year had 310 points. So when you see the points for a course, it means everybody who gained entry had those points 310 or higher. Okay. So on the PDF version of this, there's a live link into Qualifax. If you just Google Qualifax, usually the first one up is going to be a link into the page. So as I said before, Qualifax is the national database for research and courses. The bottom of that page, when you link into it, there's an interesting little sort of tool at the bottom that people might find useful. That's a CEO subject requirements tool. So, for example, for this one, I think where a lot of the issues come around for parents is around, do I need a science subject? Do I need a third language specifically? So just use that one as an example. So if I put in third language in there, out of the 1,563 courses, so the almost 1,600 courses available in the CEO, 161 actually require the third language. So if I click on that, it'll give me the list of all the courses that require the third language. First one's a little odd because it's part of the arts degree in Cork, and as we know, for an arts degree, you need a third language in an NUI college, and Cork is an NUI college. So accounting in Cork actually requires a sort of a third language. So you basically click on the course, All right, so we click on accounting and course. We've got to get loads of information. The bit you want to concentrate there is the bit in front of the screen for you. You must present 6 subjects in your Leaving Cert, as we said, 2 H5s. Pass in English, Irish Maths, ordinary or higher, so that's your O6 or your H7. And then obviously a pass in a modern European language. So that's essentially what you do. Go to Qualifax, search the course, look for the specific subject requirements, and there's in front of you, black and white, this is what I might need. This is exactly what I will need if I need to gain entry into that course. If a subject requirement changes, they normally give us 2 years advance notice, so students are told of it. If a subject requirement actually goes down, so if it was like a H4 1 year and then they're looking for the H5 the next year, they will give you no sort of advance warning. So if the grade required increases, they're going to tell you. If the grade required is going down, then they don't feel there's any need to tell students, because nobody's being disadvantaged by that. Okay. Careers portal, there's the subject page link. This basically is the link into the National Council for Curriculum and Assessment page. So it just gives you an overview of the subjects that are available in the Leaving Certs. They're all there. So we use home economics as an example. It'll give you the summary, or again, just a sort of an idea of what you might be doing if you decide to do home economics next year. There's a section there on grades awarded. I'll show you that in the next slide. Quick overview of the course, some detailed information about the course content. What's also very important is the exam structure, how much is based on continuous assessment, how many papers are there, that kind of stuff. And because it's now back into Careers Portal, you have some sort of career possibilities. What can I do with home economics, and maybe which courses may specifically require or prefer home economics as a subject. So that's an interesting little sort of summary sheet, all from that website. The students find the grades awarded, interesting. So, for example, 2023, almost 15% of students got a H1, almost 24% of students got a H2. Less than 0.2% of students failed honours home economics in the Leaving Cert. Now, the only thing I'd say when you are looking at these grades, I'll show you a Subject Grade Explorer in general in a minute as well. But when you are looking at these grades, these are national grades. They're not school specific. So, for example, for us, for last year, construction studies, almost half the class actually got a H1 or a H2. So that would be obviously, considerably better than the national statistics on that one. Okay, so some points to make for parents and students who are actually thinking about subject choice. I think the biggest sort of fallacy out there is the perception of easy and hard subjects. Some students think that certain science subjects are easier, or certain languages are easier, or whatever might be easier or more difficult. I think the bottom line is you have to think about it and just apply common sense, think about it practically. Some students are good at maths because they have an aptitude or an interest in maths, and they will find it easy. Some students do not have that natural aptitude or interest, and they find it quite difficult. It's not essentially the subject that is easy or hard. It's the student's relationship with the subject. Some students find certain subjects more easy or more difficult than others. So I always ask, say, about history, good example, how many people in the class like it? You get half the hands up. How many people in the class find it difficult? Half the hands up. It's not the subject, it's not the teacher, it's the student's relationship with the subject. So the easy and hard can be a bit misleading. Plus, they're all Leaving Cert subjects. Every Leaving Cert subject has its own demands, its own sort of inherent difficulties. The teacher, I always say, is like the icing on the cake. So follow the subject first. If you want to do history, you want to do construction studies, you go for that. And then if you've got a good relationship or a good sort of you get on well with the teacher, then that's a benefit, that's a positive. But it shouldn't be the determining factor, because like every school in the country, we're going to lose or gain teachers on an annual basis. So the teacher you're banking on may not be there next year. You can talk to friends, parents, significant others, whatever, about their advice in terms of subject choice. But I think at the end of the day, students have to make up their own mind, but you get as much information from many sources as possible. I think what the most important question is, do I need this subject for a specific course that I might have in mind, or a particular job or career I'm thinking about post-Leaving Cert? So that's when Qualifax comes in. So I want to be a mechanical engineer. I've looked at all the courses. There's some that require honours maths. There's some that will let me through with ordinary level maths. None of them require a modern European language. Just be clear on, at this stage, or as clear as you can be. Obviously, most fifth years And certainly most third years don't have a sort of a clear career goal in mind. And even those that do have a tendency to sort of change their mind during senior cycle. But there's no harm in actually just thinking now, if there's something specific that you're interested in that I've actually double checked and this is what I may or may not need. More specifically for the students who've done transition year, who actually have their junior cycle results in front of them, they might have a clear head or idea in their minds about, well, I'm good at science, I'm not so hot at maths, the language is too much of a struggle, don't know if I need it, I need to double check, whatever. So looking at your junior cert results is part of the package as well. And then, as I said about in the the second slide, motivation is a better indicator of academic success than IQ. Students have to be enthusiastic. They have to be interested. They have to want to do well in the subject, and they're willing to commit to the subject, and they're willing to do put in the hard graft that will actually get them a result at the end of the day. So find the subjects that they're interested in. If they're interested, they'll work. If they work, they'll get the grades. If they get the grades, they get the points. And the more points you have, the more choice you have. It's as simple as that. So pick subjects that you're genuinely interested in and genuinely actually want to work at. Now, there are some, I suppose, misconceptions floating around, maybe worth taking a minute on. So, for example, DCG for architecture, useful, helpful, might even be beneficial, but not a requirement. In fact, if I went into the architectural school in UCD and said, what subject would you recommend? More than likely, they actually might still recommend art. So even though we're living in a digital age where everything is done through technology, still having those traditional sort of creative skill sets that art gives you is actually quite important for architecture. For engineering, no matter what type of engineering, whether it's mechatronic engineering or chemical engineering or civil or structural engineering, mechanical, electrical, whatever, maths is your subject. And the only thing I say about maths for engineering is project maths in the Leaving Cert is very different to the kind of maths that you might require for an engineering degree at third level. So I think a lot of the maths at third level, I suppose it's a lot of it might be repeated. Plus they have a tendency to use technology like computing for doing most of the maths. So what I say about engineering and maths is that if you like maths, you don't necessarily have to be a H1, H2 type of character, but if you like it and you're not essentially struggling with it, it's worth keeping in mind that the maths for engineering might be more manageable than you actually think. You don't need biology to be a nurse. Obviously, it's common sense, anatomy, physiology. It sounds like it's the right thing for nursing. It obviously is. But if you actually go to the nursing school, they'll say, well, biology is fine, but chemistry might give you a bit of a sort of an advantage starting off. So that's something to consider. I would say, and I'll say this again, is that in the human sciences, that the best combination would be chemistry and biology. No business course in the country, bar one in Galway, as an exception, actually requires a business subject. So you can get into any of your management degrees, your sort of business, any business degree at third level, where it's e-commerce or it's sort of entrepreneurship or marketing, whatever. And no business subject in your Leaving Cert is actually required. And we have had students who haven't done Leaving Cert business who've actually gone on and quite successfully gone on to do a business degree. I suppose the argument you might make is that if you're interested in business, well, obviously you should be at least sort of trying to do business at the moment, but there's that. You don't need a modern, and never have needed a modern language for primary school teaching. So why do some people do it? Well, I suppose on the new curriculum, there's the option to do the French or the German, so that it might be useful in the long run. A lot of students don't achieve the points directly for the BEd, the primary school education degree, will use a humanities or an arts degree as a backdoor in. Now, some of the humanities degrees actually don't even require a language either, but if you are looking at doing arts minute, then obviously, and then my backdoor into primary school teaching will be to do the postgrad for teaching. Then having the language to get into the arts degree sort of makes sense, but you actually don't need a modern language going straight into the BEd program. And then I think the last point is most students most of the time end up doing something that is unrelated to what they're doing at secondary school level. So as we said, there's almost 1,600 courses out there. We offer 19 subjects in the Leaving Cert. And a lot of students end up in areas or in fields or in careers that are not actually related to what they're studying at second level. So the world is their oyster. You can still do your Italian or do your Chinese or do your Japanese just in terms of languages at third level and not having actually touched them at second level. Okay, so this is something just worth considering about. The Leaving Cert is tough, especially sixth year is quite demanding on students. And what a number of students will do is they'll be a little bit more savvy about picking their Leaving Cert subjects. So, for example, if you do art, then I think that's due up in April, then you can actually have almost 2/3 of your results in the bag before you actually have to sit the final exam in June. Same with construction engineering, 50%, 40% on the DCG. So a lot of students will look at some of the subjects that have a practical or a project component and use that to sort of take a little bit of pressure off the final exams in at the end of sixth year. So it's a consideration. But obviously, interest and enthusiasm, you have to want to like the subject. You're not just doing the subject because it's a 50% practical. So your history, geography, home ec, applied maths and economics, 1/5 of the course can be out of the way there before you actually hit the final exam. So it's something worth looking at. The next page you can pause and read through yourself, but just there are a sort of a series of deadlines in terms of when projects and stuff need to be sort of put in, so that can affect your time management around sixth year as well. So it's probably worth just keeping that in mind as well, that you don't want all your work needed to be done at the same time. I've highlighted in red that the languages, the orals are actually taking place in Easter this year. The reason it's in red is because I know it's under negotiation that it may not be that case next year, but at the moment that's what it is, and that's what's intended to be, unless there's some sort of change later down the line. Okay, so we have our compulsory subjects, as we said before, the English, the Irish, and maths. English is on a higher ordinary level. There was a foundation level English course that no longer is available. Maths and Irish, as I said, is done a higher ordinary and foundation level, but remember, points for foundation level maths are restricted. Only certain courses will accept foundation level maths, and the Irish, as I said, foundation level, no points, no recognition. I've put in the asterisk beside the Irish because there are a number of students obviously have an exemption from the study of Irish, normally based on maybe specific learning difficulty. Just to highlight as well is that if a student is born outside the country, so they can present a passport or birth certificate, they can bypass the NUI matriculation requirements and the University of Limerick and the Trinity matriculation requirements for Irish. They can get a pass basically in Irish if they present their passport or birth certificate. So an unusual situation where students actually have to do Irish as part of their studies in school, but the colleges don't necessarily need that same student to actually present it for third level. So it's a bit of an anomaly. So we have 19 subjects in 5 different areas, and the student chooses 4. So we have the languages, the sciences, business, social studies, and applied sciences. So of the 19 options available, they'll actually just pick 4. Language starts off with the compulsories, the Irish and the English, unless exempted from the study of Irish. 2 most popular languages in the school are obviously French and German. French more popular than the German numbers wise. That mirrors what happens nationally. And then outside of school, we've had students take a whole range of modern European languages. You could add Spanish to that list there as well. Okay, so for the Irish, sorry, just probably want to read through this yourself as well. But essentially, the first list are all the NUI or NUI affiliated colleges. They look for a pass in a minimum of ordinary level Irish. Okay, honours will do as well. The more recent changes to the Guards. The Guards no longer have a sort of second language requirement, so you don't need the Irish for the Guards anymore. But I have been told that Templemore course, there is a component in there, a module or something in there, where they have to do some Irish, so you can't really escape Irish completely, but you don't need it for entry. You need the H4 or better for the primary school teaching. That was recently a H5, it's gone back up to a sort of a H4. But just to remind people as well that Trinity, so Trinity College Dublin do look for 2 languages. So if you have English and then you have got the Irish, that fulfills the 2 language requirements. So there's no third language requirement necessary for Trinity. The English and Irish would actually suffice. The same for the University of Limerick. And then with DCU, it's English or Irish. So it's only a single language requirement in Dublin City University. And as again, no points for foundation level Irish. Okay. I think English is a good example about students transitioning from honours to ordinaries. So English teachers are well versed in advising students about this. But if they are entertaining the idea of dropping from honours to ordinary, the timing needs to be right, because sometimes, with different poets or a different piece of drama, they could actually end up taking on more work than they think they're doing. So the transition between subjects is important, but they'll get that advice from the teachers. I think maths teachers normally sort of recommend anywhere between 3 and 6 weeks. If you're dropping from honours to ordinary, just give yourself the guts of a month anyway, to be thinking about getting used to this, or the exam papers, the way the questions are asked. So, having the skill set behind you is one thing, but being familiar with the exam structure and the exam sort of system for the ordinary level paper, that takes a little bit of time. Okay, so and again, don't fail honours English, I think, which is a particularly difficult thing to do. But if it does, as I said, the vast majority of courses will look for a pass in English. So failing the honours English can be a bit of can be problematic. Lots of courses might favour English. So your journalism, speech and language therapy. So having the honours English will help you in that courses. I threw in there at the bottom, because it affected a student this year, is if you are looking at UK courses, you do need honours English. Under the UCAS system, they do look for honours English for psychology degrees. Just worth bearing in mind. Okay, so the more tricky one is the modern European language. So for us, that's normally the French or German, or one of the languages that students will actually take up outside of school. A lot of business courses now will offer a language component, I think, because we're involved more with the multinationals and the internationals. So having a language with business qualification can be seen as an advantage. It is required at ordinary level minimum only for the NUI colleges. Okay, so you do need it as well for the cadets. Historically, for the cadets, I think the military history was always done down in Cork. Cork is an NUI college, so therefore that's where that requirement came in. It's sort of a legacy left over. It's important in a lot of courses with the language options, European Studies, Tourism, things like languages and marketing, so forth. A modern European language is not bold, underlined in red, not required for nursing. You want to do nursing in Trinity, you want to do nursing in DCU, you want to do nursing in Dundalk, then no modern European language is required. Primary school teaching, as I said before, it's never required a modern European language. No science degree in the country requires a modern European language. So if you feel at this stage that you're actually very much a science head and you're doing something in the field of science, then modern European language not required. Now, if you're good at the language and you have an efficiency in the language and you feel that you might do well at it and you've a bit of a passion for it, and that will give you the grades, give you the points, well, that might actually help you get into the sort of science degree. But for matriculation, for just getting into the science degree, it's not required. Same for ag science, same for engineering. No engineering course in the country requires a modern European language. And nor most of the business courses, apart from the business and language courses. So the best advice would up to be now, if you haven't taken the language, it's probably a particular reason why you haven't taken the language. So if you've struggled with it up to now, maybe it's not worth taking on, but always double check the matriculation requirements on Qualifax. This is something that I need, even though I don't like it, don't want it, can barely pass it, but it might be necessary to gain entry. And as we said, a number of students take leaving cert language subjects outside of school. In the science area, we have the 3 lab sciences, biology, chemistry, physics. We have the core science subject, which is maths. Everybody takes science because everybody takes maths. You've got the ag science, and then you have the applied maths in there. So the laboratory science subjects, list of courses there that would be needed for your paramedical, sort of biomedical, dentistry, OT, pharmacy, physio, radiography, human nutrition. Obviously, you can take up a science or technology or engineering course in a technical university without even having a science subject in a lot of cases, but it may be an advantage. Maybe else coming in has the science subject and they're going to hit the ground running, and you might have to play a bit of catch up. So, but there are still options available to students who change their mind over the 2 years in the senior cycle. 2 years is the 5th to 6th year, is a long time when you're actually thinking about courses and careers and jobs. If a career medicine is important, I've mentioned this before, human medicine, including nursing obviously, then chemistry and biology, that would be the primary option for most people. If you are looking at medicine or dentistry in TCD, then there is a 2 science subject requirement on that. If you are interested in engineering, then physics and chemistry obviously again should be both considered, and then there's some odd things in there. If you want to do biology and home economics in St. Angela's, then yes, having biology is required, but they'll actually also accept chemistry, physics or ag science. So sometimes things are not straightforward. Even the physical education course with biology in Dublin City University will accept physics or chemistry in place of biology. So always basically check and double check. This picture is a little bit old. It's the British Association for the Advancement of Science, which has since been renamed, but it still makes a good point. If you are interested in anything in the biological sciences, it's a no-brainer. Do biology. Chemical sciences, do your chemistry. Physical sciences, do your physics. Engineering, I've said now a number of times, it's maths. Prioritize your maths as for study. And then the medical sciences, prioritize your chemistry. I think that just makes a good point. Okay, so maths, I think when employers phone looking for references, they usually, apart from attendance and punctuality and general demeanour, they're always going to ask about literacy and numeracy. So it's always about the maths and the English at the end of the day. A 04 better is usually required for most of the science and business courses at university level. I think a good rule of thumb is whatever grade in maths the course is looking for, that probably in some way mirrors the mathematical content of the course. So if a course looking for a H2 means there's a hell of a lot of maths in it. If it's just looking for, in some cases, like an 06, means that your math skills are not necessarily the most indicative of success on that course. Honours Maths is required by actually very few courses. So out of those almost 1,600 courses we have as of today, 73 of them actually require Honours Maths. Now most of those are Honours Engineering degrees. So that's 73 out of your 1,600 plus. So most students will take on the Honours Maths, yes, some because they actually enjoy it, they like it, and they have a proficiency in it. But a lot are actually taking on Honours Maths now because of the bonus points. I think since we brought that system in 2012, it's about a 25% increase in the number of students taking Honours Maths. We talked about foundational maths, that's fine. Can I just remind students there it's not acceptable for the guards. Okay, I think that you can read through that there yourself. Foundation level maths, however, is acceptable for places on arts degrees, music, social science degrees, law degrees. So you could actually go to Maynooth with your foundational maths and actually get into a law degree. Now remember, no points, but it is acceptable as a subject fulfilling the requirement to get in, but there would be no points awarded for that. But you could still actually do a law degree in Maynooth without presenting maths, ordinary or honours maths. And then there's another few anomalies around the place as well. So for example, for those students doing applied maths, where DCU and their engineering computing courses say you must have a certain grade in honours maths, the applied maths, if you fail to achieve that grade in the honours maths, an equivalent grade in applied maths will actually do. So the applied maths actually might get you in. Okay, so our three courses in the business area. So our business breaks up is into accounting, business and economics. I mentioned earlier that there was one exception to a business course requiring a business subject. That's the Galway one, where they look for commerce and accounting looks for a H4 in accounting, really only doing that on a trial basis to see if it's actually making any difference. So because there is such a difference between business at third level and business at second level, the colleges never look for a business subject, because a lot of what you do at third level is ab initio. So you're basically doing it from scratch, no prior knowledge presumed, and you're straight in. So no business course requires a business subject. Okay. Social studies areas were history, geography, art, and music. No course in the country requires history, but it might be useful. There's two reasons for taking a subject. One is that it's needed for the career or the course, but secondly, because it actually might be beneficial in some way. So obviously, if you're doing like economics, politics, and law in DCU, having history would actually be useful. It would actually be a good training ground for a course like that. Geography is a little bit more of an odd one. I think we treat geography as being an arts subject, but a lot of the colleges still traditionally approach it as being a science subject. So we end up with a little anomaly whereby Trinity will actually accept geography as a science subject for entry into either science or pharmacy. Now, not medicine, obviously, but just for science or pharmacy. UCD, playing catch up as well, will accept geography as a entry requirement, again, for their science. So again, it's always check and double check and triple check. Okay. Art is an odd one as well. NCAD, National College of Art and Design, and Thomas Street, because they're an NUI college, they do look for a pass in a modern European language, but because it's NCAD, they'll actually accept art in place of that sort of language requirement, which is an odd one. The only thing I would say about art is if students are looking at art and design courses that have a portfolio requirement going into college, start the work in fifth year. because there's too much to be doing in the sixth year, just in terms of time management and prioritizing your work. So portfolios really should be begun in sort of fifth year. Teachers will obviously advise students on this. Music, as I said, is taken outside of school. And there are, there's a handful of courses around there that will actually require some sort of audition. University of Limerick has most of their music-based courses have an audition requirement there. So again, just something to keep in mind. Most students take it outside of school. Now, this is by far this is the most popular area. This is where most students, most of the time, will want to end up in one of the 4 applied science areas. We've got engineering, DCG, construction, and home economics. Okay, so start with the home economics there. Just that's the list of courses that will either look for home economics or will take home economics instead of a laboratory science subject. So home ec teaching, obviously food innovation, food sciences, and there was a new one there, TU Dublin as well, will accept it as a science subject for ophthalmic dispensing this year on the Grange Gorman campus. So a quick overview of the number of students actually doing honours subjects last year, just out of interest. So English is the dominant. So any student who's likely to take an honours subject in the Leaving Cert is most likely to take it at English level. Followed closely by biology. I think that's because you get the advice of take the science subject, keep your options open. I think a lot of students find biology, junior cycle to be the most manageable of the 3 areas in junior cycle science. So that you end up with a lot of students taking on the biology, all the way down there to music engineering, and then a list of subjects below that. Just interesting. Now, I mentioned this earlier about the subject grades Explorer. If you click on that, it brings you to the Careers Portal website. This is just a screenshot. It's obviously an interactive website when you actually link into the page. So, for example, if you wanted to see what number of students got a H1 on the Leaving Cert on the 2023, so last year's Leaving Cert, you can see that obviously everybody should be doing Mandarin, Chinese, and Russian because that's where the highest number of H1s are achievable. So obviously there's a lot of common sense reasons why students achieve such high grades on certain subjects. You'd imagine that the vast majority of the 335 who took the Mandarin Chinese last year were actually native speakers. The same with the Russian and the Portuguese. So it's just handy just to have a look at that. English has never gone from the bottom of the pile. So the most difficult subject to achieve a H1 in English or in the Leaving Cert has always been English, at least as far back as I can remember. But it's just an interesting graph to have a look at. Now, how this works in the real world, we'll use University College Dublin as an example. So UCD, look at the first course there, top left-hand side, DN 100, which is architecture. So we're talking about matriculation or entry requirements. So if you want to do architecture in UCD, what do I need? Well, I need to pass, so that's the 06 or H7, Irish, English, Modern European Language, Maths, and then 2 other subjects. That's my 6 subjects, okay? And for architecture in UCD. And then you see that last year the points were 566. So again, it means that the last person achieved the place in that course had 566. And next year they're hoping to offer for Leaving Cert students 57 places are available. I've just pointed there on the right hand side just to remind as a reminder that there are multiple access points. There's other ways into college courses. So, for example, there's the DARE scheme, the HERE scheme, I'll mention them again later. There's mature entry, there's program transfer, there's students coming in through PLC routes. So that's that QQI, further education and training, FET courses. So basically, doing a course in Dunboyne and then trying to get a place in computer science in UCD. Now, in fairness to UCD, they're actually quite generous in the number of places they actually offer for via the PLC route. So there's always just reminding students that there are backdoors and other avenues into real world courses. Okay, so again, anybody who's reading a newspaper or listening to information online, whatever, this is just from Future Skills Ireland. This is where the job shortages are at the moment. There's no surprises. We don't have enough teachers. We don't have enough nurses. We don't have enough people in the traditional trades. We don't have enough people working in all the different areas of IT. AI is a sort of brand new area taking or sort of launching off at the moment, but we just don't have enough people. We're effectively at full employment. So basically, there's issues around that. Okay. So recap. So number one, do your research. If there is a specific course or job or career that you're thinking about, have I checked Qualifax just to double check? Always select your best 6 for points, because your points are based on your best 6 subjects. So the subjects that you're most enthusiastic about, you're most interested in, you're working the hardest at, that will get you the points, and the points will get you into the course. So specific career I've just mentioned. If a mistake is made in September, so if you decide in September, I'm in home economics, biggest mistake of my life, I don't know what I was thinking, come and talk to myself, talk to principal, deputy principal, somebody, to see if it's possible to change out as quickly as possible. The thing I would say about that is that it's not always possible, because there are limits on class sizes. Most class sizes can't have more than 30. Practical class can't have more than 24. And say home ec and art can't have more than 20. So it might not be physically possible to actually change the course if you have made a mistake. So obviously try and make the best decision first off. But if a mistake is made and it's genuine, you can seek us out and see if it's actually possible to change if it's early enough in the year. I talked at length there about the easy and hard subject. It's basically one of the biggest sort of, I think, myths around subject choice. Nothing is easy, nothing is hard, especially in the Leaving Cert. It's all difficult, manageable, but difficult. Where possible, as I said, start with honours level subjects. So it's better to start the honours and then drop back later than sort of start with the ordinary and see if you can push yourself to honours. More honours you're doing, the higher points, more choice. As simple as that. Your choice should not totally be dependent upon which teacher teaches the subject. It talks about that as well. And then the last point on this page is that the Leaving Certificate is a full-time 2-year course. So the work starts from day one of 5th year. So falling behind in 5th year means you're playing catch up in 6th year, and that is not an easy task. There's enough stress and strain involved in just in 6th year than trying to catch up with all the material that you left out on in 5th year. So going into 5th year with a good attitude and with a good, a good work ethic is incredibly important. Students who have that will do well. Students who don't have that will do poorly. A little bit more advice is maybe talk to a present 5th or 6th year senior cycle student studying the subject at the moment and get their advice. But again, be careful. It's like the history. Talk to somebody who likes history, they're going to tell you to do it. Talk to somebody who dislikes history, they're going to tell you to avoid it. So I think it's more important you ask students why do they sort of enjoy or not enjoy certain subjects, and see if that actually works for you. Okay, you can talk to professionals in the classroom, so you can talk to the teachers. We will sort out a sort of an afternoon event where students can actually go and talk to individual teachers with if they have specific questions. So that'll be coming up soon enough as well. I think looking at a copy of a senior cycle textbook is a great way to get a lot of information very quickly. And then might be a bit scary, but I think the Leaving Cert exam papers are a very quick, sharp way to find out what the standard is like and what the course entails. So just taking a minute to look at one of the past exam papers actually is a great way to find out what a subject will be like. Now, my word of warning in that is that if you are a first year and I told you to look at a junior cycle paper, you probably have had cardiac arrest on the spot. So I think what you have to understand as well, it's just to give you an idea, is that you're still 2 years away from having to actually do one of those papers. It's just to give you an idea of what sort of what questions might come up or how intense the subject might be. Now, as I said, AI is a whole new field that's opened up, I suppose, sort of realistically in the last year and a half. So I just typed into our ChatGPT list of questions to help third years with their Leaving Certificate. I think more and more students are actually using AI in terms of putting sort of projects and essays and pieces of work together. I mean, I did that for this. You can see there was a list of 15 questions there. You can pause and read through yourself. They're all actually very good questions. AI can be a very useful, practical sort of tool for in education. But I guess we just watch this space and see how it actually pans out in the future. Okay, now I mentioned this a bit before. I said there are other ways of gaining entry into courses. So specifically, it's the HEAR scheme, Higher Education Access Route, and the DARE scheme, which is the Disability Access Route to Education. So HEAR is essentially for people with socioeconomic disadvantage. So not my phrasing, that's department phrasing. And it's if somebody, for example, is in receipt of medical card, so they hit the medical card limit, well, more than likely you're probably going to get maintenance grant. More than likely you might be eligible under the HEAR scheme. So basically what the colleges can do is they can reduce points for entry on an individual basis. So you apply, they look at you, they might say, well, listen, you can get in, 20 points lower, 30 points lower, whatever. That's not the important bit. The important bit is the supports they offer in place post-entry. So it's all the additional supports that you actually get when you get in as a HERE student. They're actually very, very useful. The DARE scheme then is for disability. It can be a specific learning difficulty. It could be dyslexia, dyspraxia, DCD. It can be a as the physical can be like a chronic condition. It could be ulcerative colitis. It could be Crohn's. It could be a diagnosis of depression. It could be something like that. So the reason I want to mention that now, prior to going into TY or fifth year, is because in some cases, especially with disability, you don't even need an up-to-date report. If it's something like dyslexia, an old report is fine, but it might have to be updated by the school. But a lot of parents want the report updated for the student going into college, because the whatever recommendations are in the report will be taken on far more quickly by the colleges if there's an up-to-date report. Sorry, so the point of that is that parent feedback at the moment is you're waiting anywhere from 6 months to a year and a half to get some reports updated. So you may not need the report updated. It might be fine as it is, but you may. So basically go to accesscollege.ie and again, double check, make sure you're in a position that you're not going to be running around looking for updated reports in sixth year. Okay, so thank you for your time. If you have any questions or you need any clarifications or there's something specific you need to ask, easiest, quickest way to access me is email. So it's just dotes at St.Ciarán's cscommunityschool.ie. That comes straight to my desk. So if there are any questions, anything I can help you with, you can send me an email or a phone call if I'm around, and I'll do my best to get back to you as quickly as possible. Okay, so hope that's been useful, and thank you very much for your time.